My name is Bert, and this is the Still Life Podcast. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Still Life Podcast. As always, I am your host, Bert. And today, I didn't record an episode yesterday. And it's mostly because I felt like I was just behind all day, regardless of what I did or how much I did. I just felt like I couldn't really catch up, and I was just kind of running along trying to get back to even yesterday. And had a couple meetings last night. By the time I got done with those, I was spent physically and mentally. And it was just like, I could stay up late and record something, but I would rather get some rest and record two somethings today. So this is the first of two episodes I will record today on Friday. I feel a lot better. I've got some energy. I feel recharged. So let's get after it. So yesterday was just kind of one of those days I woke up and felt like I started the day off behind. Getting my kids ready for the day, running around taking care of errands, dealing with some phone calls, talking to some people, catching up. And, like I said, I had a couple meetings last night, a couple Zoom calls. And it was just constantly, I felt like I was rushing around. My body's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. My brain is moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I just couldn't seem to catch a break yesterday. So it was a stressful day. And it was just emotionally, physically, mentally, just exhausting. And, I don't have days like that all the time. But when I do, man, they hit hard at the end of the day when I'm finally able just to lay down and relax, and it took probably an hour to 2 hours really to get my brain to just turn off and to be able just to relax in some peace and quiet and kind of wind down. I laid in my bed and watched TV for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before I finally fell asleep because my brain finally just turned off. But it was like, when I have those days, how do I unplug and how do I wind down and kind of decompress and de-stress? And really, it's a hard thing to do. And a lot of times I get so caught up in trying to catch up or really trying to stay ahead that when that happens and when you're in the moment, it's just kind of hard because it's like you're gasping for air. And so it's really hard to say, okay, I need to slow down, maybe reprioritize and reconsider a few things, maybe trim away some things that I don't necessarily need to do right now or even today, and really just kind of do what I can do without feeling overwhelmed. Now, again, I have a super hard time thinking of this stuff when I'm in the moment. Like yesterday, would have been great if I could have been, all right, let's step back, take a breath, gather our thoughts, collect myself, and reprioritize my schedule and my day. Because at the same time, I feel like there are times when I get that way and then I'm never really completely into whatever it is I'm doing because I'm already looking forward and thinking about what I have to do next. And so it really takes my attention away from what I'm doing at that moment. So on a phone call, or a meeting, I'm distracted thinking about the next thing I have to do on my list, the next thing I need to accomplish. So I end up usually missing things or, not being able to fully contribute something to an interaction, to a meeting, to a phone call, whatever it is, to playing with my kids because I'm so worried about what I have to do next just to feel like I'm staying afloat. And so it's a challenge finding that balance on those more chaotic days. Now, today is one of those days where I don't have a full schedule. I have some flexibility. So I was able to relax a little bit this morning, went and got some coffee, hung out with a buddy of mine, and we got to catch up a little bit. And now I can approach this podcast refreshed and relaxed. My head is clear. I feel good mentally, physically, and emotionally, and I can focus on the task at hand without saying, oh, well, I have to do all these other things today, because I have plenty of time in which to take care of the things that I need to take care of. And I feel like oftentimes at the end of a stressful or overwhelming day, it can be easy to just chalk that day up as a loss when in fact it wasn't a loss at all. I was very productive yesterday, got a lot of positive things accomplished, but again, I was just completely spent at the end of the day, and it wasn't a good kind of exhaustion. I was just stressed out and overwhelmed. It wasn't like, man, I got all these things accomplished and did all this stuff and I feel good. It was like, the day's finally over. I can finally stop and unpack all of this crap that I've been running around with all day. Totally different kind of exhaustion, and it doesn't feel nearly as good or productive. And so really it becomes this struggle of where do I find balance and how do I get balance on those days instead of after those days. And really for me, it has to be one of those things where maybe it's I make a list, and I hit the pause button when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, say, okay, these are, things A, B, and C I have to get done today, or even this is what I have to do right now. Which of these things can either wait till later or wait till tomorrow to do? Again, something that's very easier said than done 24 hours after the fact. When I'm in the moment, it's like, holy crap, I've got to do everything. I have to get all these things accomplished. This has to be done. When in actuality, there are things that did not have to get done yesterday that I still did. And those totally could have waited until today. But instead, I neglected the things that I really probably should have done. I probably should have recorded yesterday. But again, I put it off. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed out. I was exhausted. So it's hard to put out good content when I feel like I'm under all this pressure and I can't think clearly enough to be able to process what I'm trying to convey or the message that I'm trying to get across. Now, the craziest part is that, looking back at my time in the military, my time spent overseas on deployment, and even really sometimes in the civilian work environment, I would thrive in those moments of chaos where it seemed like there was total just confusion everywhere, and I could plow ahead straight forward, focused. And now I struggle with that. Not on a daily basis, but on occasion I struggle with that, where I feel like when I'm in chaos, I don't know which way is up and down, and I don't know which way is forward for me. So again, it's almost having to dig deep and remember that not only can I be productive in chaos, I know how to thrive in chaos. And I should be able to do that in my own life. So it's a constant reminder of not only can I do this, but I can do this really freaking well. But here we sit, a day later, and we're able to reflect on all these things and kind of take pause and take stock of the day. And this is that daily learning process is I'm discovering things, learning things about myself, how I can grow, how I can improve, but also things that I've done very well. I had very productive phone calls yesterday. I had, probably 5 or 6 very productive phone calls with, members of the group that I'm a part of, MVP, Emerging Vets and Players. And I'll get into that in a later episode because that will be probably a long-winded episode. I'm very passionate about that group. It is my second family, really. And, so I talked to several other members yesterday, and those were very productive phone calls, felt really good. But again, I felt pressured because I had more phone calls to make, and I had all these other things I needed to get done. I had to take care of the kids. And so it just was chaos, and I felt spent and exhausted at the end of the day, and like the day was almost wasted, even though looking at it now, I know the day was not a waste, and it was, in fact, incredibly productive. So, in conclusion, I need to learn when I'm in the midst of chaos that I can take pause, refocus, re-energize, reprioritize, and then press forward. So, it will be a daily struggle, but it's something I'm saying I've verbalized now, and I'm going to be able to put into practice moving forward. And with that, I'd like to thank you for joining me today on the Still Life podcast. As always, for questions, comments, topic ideas, or suggestions, or if you'd like to become a sponsor of the Still Life Podcast, you can email us, thestilllifepodcast@gmail.com. That's thestilllifepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for joining me today on the Still Life Podcast, and we'll talk again soon.